A blessed day, everyone. I am Rejhalyn Mich Duran from the Bachelor of Science in Customs Administration. So, today I will be discussing the Section 2 Administrative Provisions and Section 10, Section 11, Section 12, and Section 18 under the CMO 3-2022. Let's start our topic with the subsection of Section 2 Administrative Provision. So for the subsection 2.1.1, the transfers of goods to CBWs. So goods going through the CBW must first go through a mandatory non-intrusive inspection at the port of discharge. It's like an X-ray scan. So this applies whether the goods are declared under the warehouse declaration or transit declaration. Or as we all know, the W said or the T said. So under this section, there is a exemption for um, this section. So if the goods are under an alert order or chosen for a more detailed inspection, so they won't be allowed to transfer immediately. So mag-undergo, if kailangan pa nila mag-undergo og physical examination, kay dili sila direct i-transferred sa warehouses. Otherwise, if the district collector will allow the immediate transfer of the bonded warehouse to the CBW where a physical examination will be done, unless if approved by the district collector. So all goods going through the bonded warehouse are scanned at the port. So if wala issue nga makita, they can be quickly moved to the warehouse where a physical check happens or physical examination happens. So under the let's proceed to the 2.1.2, the storage period of the bonded goods. So goods kept in a CBW can stay there up to 1 year. So starting from the day that they arrive at the warehouse. That's for the customs bonded warehouse. And for the customs common bonded warehouse, the 1 year period starts from the time that the goods arrive at the mother warehouse. So the difference ni life is ang CBW mag-start ang iyang period of counting if ang goods kay mag-arrive na sa warehouse. And sa CCBW or sa Customs Common Bonded Warehouse, mag-start ang iyang counting sa days or sa period if the day na arrive na siya sa mother warehouse. So for the perishable goods like food, medicines, it can stay up for 3 months from arrival. And these 3 months can be or may be extended for once. Ika-isa lang siya pwede ma-extend. Only if there is a valid reason and request is made in writing. Let's proceed to the section 2.1.3, the allowable importations. So, a customs bonded warehouse can only import goods that are within the authority or the license approved for it. So, ang mga specific na pwede nila import is first, the raw materials na stated sa ilahang licenses. Second, katong volume or quantity nga stated sa ilang licenses. Dapat dili na mag-exceed such as katong mga kilo, kung pila ka liter, pila ka square meter, and etc. So for the third one is dapat it is for industry specific customs bonded warehouses. So only the client and user listed ang allowed na mag-use sa raw materials, and only in the quantity or volume each approved for each client. So kung unsa to ang goods na imported nga if ang goods nga nag I'm sorry. If naay goods nga na import nga dili authorized or go beyond sa approved quantity or volume, they will be no longer free duty, or dili na sila duty free. Dili sila free from the taxes and all. So instead, they will be subjected to duties and taxes. So dapat kung unsa to ang nasa license or kung unsa ang approve sa imong kung pila ka kilometers, pila ka kilo, pila ka square meters, dapat mao lang jud tong imong i-import. Dapat dili na mag-exceed. So by that, dili na ka magbayad og duties and taxes. So, for the section 2.1.4, the non-importation of finished goods. So, katong mga ready-to-use na products are not allowed to be imported into a CBW. So, katong mga goods nga finished na, dili siya allowed na i-import sa CBW unless if ang kanang finished goods can only be imported if they will be used as a part of component in making another product that will be exported. And this must be proved by the Customs Bonded Warehouse Committee. So, unless if kung mag-import ka og finished product, dapat ang katong finished product kay i-make siya or maging part siya for another making of finished product. So bale, katong finished product nga i-import nimo kay may mo siyang mahulog jud siya nga raw material ana. So under the presita sa 2.1.5, the restricted and regulated goods. So some goods are classified as restricted or regulated. So the meaning, you need a special clearance or import permit from the authority government before bringing them in. So, if mag-import ka og goods na under sa regulated or restricted without the required clearance or permit, they can be seized or makuha sila sa customs. And eventually, possible na ma-forfeit or will be confiscated by the government. So, if mag-import gani ka og mga controlled goods, kailangan na na-adjoy mga clearance and permits. Let's proceed to the 2.1.6, which is the withdrawal for local sales or the domestic consumption in a CBW. So, goods na nasa CBW are mainly for export. They cannot be sold locally unless the district collector will approve it with the recommendation of the um, ano nga ito? Operating division. So yes, under this section, duties and taxes are fully paid, even if allowed. So the goods for local and or domestic sales dapat dili mag-exceed og 30% of the total raw materials na gidala nimo sa CBW in that year. Unless kana nga 30% sales limit kay dili na siya applicable or dili na siya pwede ma-apply pag naa sa private customs bonded warehouse. So in short, the CBW goods are for export but up to 30% lang ang may be sold locally if approved and taxes are paid unless it is a private CBW which is not bound by the 30% rule. Next is 2.2.11. So the member who first received transferred goods is not allowed to transfer or sell them again to another member. So dili dapat nimo na baligya sa imong same na accredited member. So next is 2.2.12. Any transfer or sale of bonded goods must be approved by the district collector who oversees the CCBW. So, ang any transfer or sale of bonded goods dapat approved by the district collector or katong nag-oversee sa CCBW. So, for the 2.2.13, both the CCBW and the accredited member are jointly responsible for properly accounting and liquidating the WSAD related to the goods. or the related to the banded goods. So both of the CCBW and the accredited member are liable or responsible for accounting and liquidations. And next is the 2.2.14. Under this section, if bonded goods are sold or transferred between members of the same CCBW, both the CCBW and the buyer member are jointly and equally liable for any issues that may arise. So if ang bonded goods are sold or transferred between the same member sa isa ka CCBW, ang kato silang duha or the both member ay jointly and equally liable if naay mga issues or naay mga damages na mag-arrive or possible na mahitabo. So that would be all for the section 2 administrative provisions. Now let's proceed to section 10, which is the lodgement, filing, and processing of goods declaration for the transfer of goods to the customs bonded warehouses. So in this section, I will be mentioning the specific documents that is used in this section and the purposes of each document. So for the section 10.1.1, the documents needed are the pre-WSAD or the WSAD, which is the Warehousing Single Administrative Document. So the purpose of this document is used to declare goods entering warehousing procedures and submitted for validation to the account officer. And shipping and commercial documents. The purpose of this document is supporting papers like the invoice, the packing list, and etc. It is submitted together with the WSAD or pre-WSAD for the verification by the account officer. That's the documents that needed in the section 10.1.2. Let's proceed to the next section, which is the section 10.1.2. The documents needed are the pre-WSAD or the WSAD, which serves as the reference document for the account officer to check if goods are included in the list of approved importable materials. So approved SMMRIR, it is a list of importable materials. So it is used by the account officer to validate whether the goods are allowed to be entered under the warehousing procedures. So that's the documents that is needed for the section 10.1.2. The next section would be the 10.1.4, which is the required documents and purpose noted of the WSAD or the pre-WSAD. So, main customs form for goods entering the CBW. So, the purpose of these documents is to declare the shipment for warehousing. Next document is the bill of lading. So, this is the shipping document from the courier and the purpose of shipment and ownership of goods. Okay? Next is the invoice. It is a seller's document showing price and descriptions. And the purpose of this is it will be served as a basis for customs evaluation. And the packing list is the list of items inside each package or container. And the purpose is to helps verify the actual contents of the shipments. And next document is the import permits if applicable or if needed. So the government approval for controlled goods. So the purpose of this is to ensure imports follows the regulation. And next document is the TSAD transfer note and mission order for the less container load. So it is a document used to move from port to warehouses. So the purpose of this is to authorize legal transfers of the shipment, and all of these are supporting documents which is required when lodging the WSAD or for the customs bonded warehouse transfer, and they verify the shipment details, the ownership, the quantity, and the legality of import. Next section is the section 10.1.5. The documents needed are the WSAD, which is it will serve as the basis for checking if goods are importable or within the allowed quantity. Next is the goods declaration for consumption, which is filed when goods are not importable or exceeded the allowed quantity under the warehousing system. The third is staging bill of lading. So the purpose of this document is to issued for goods converted from warehousing entry to consumption entry. That's for the section 10.1.5. Next is section 10.1.6. So the documents needed for this section is the goods declaration for warehousing, which is serves as the registered in the electric to mobile system once documents are in order, and it is used for inspection and liquidation for or of imported of raw materials. The section 10.1.8, the documents needed in this section is the e-track system record. So the purpose of e-track system record is to used by operations officers to track and ensure that the goods are properly booked and monitored before final assessment. In section 10.1.9 and section 10.1.10, it is a document needed. So for this section, the documents needed is the WSAD assessment notice, which is the notification that assessed duties and taxes have been charged against the CBW operator's bond. And the section 10.1.11, the documents needed is the warehouse documentation and records divisions or the WDRD copy of entry. And the purpose of this document is for reference and safekeeping when seizure of goods is warranted. That's for the section 10.1.11. Next section would be the section 10.1.12. So the document needed in this section is the logbook or the Annex G. So the purpose of this document is it is a where the accounts officer records information and status of goods declaration for warehousing. The section 10.1.13, the document needed is the goods declaration for warehousing. The purpose of this is to submit it together with other documents for filing and record keeping in the WDRT. In the section 10.1.14, the documents of mission order. So it is issued when shipment is less container load, and it is designates a customs guard to supervise transfer to the customs bonded warehouses. Next document is the transfer note, or we called it boat note. So the boat note is used to authorize and track the actual transfer of goods to CBW. So the purpose of this is to ensure goods are securely transferred and properly documented under the customs supervisions. Let's proceed to section 10.1.15. So the documents needed in this section is the transfer note or the boat note. So the boat note presented upon arrival at the customs bonded warehouse to confirm delivery. And second one is the logbook entry. It records the cargoes, conditions, and arrival details. So the purpose of these documents is to verify that the goods arrived are intact and were officially received at the CBW. Let's proceed to the section 10.2. In this section, it is a transfer through transit or the TSA, the Transit Single Administrative Document. So the purpose of this document is to process the transfer of imported goods from the customs zone to the CBW, and it must be lodged in the E2M system. Next section is the section 10.2.1. So the documents needed is documentary requirements with TSAD is a bill of lading or a airway bill. Second is invoice. Third is the packing list. Fourth is the import permit if needed or if applicable. Sorry. So the purpose of those document or this document is to require to verify the shipment contents and compliance. Next section is the section 10.2.5. So the TSAD is the final assessment notice. Wala siyang document na needed. So, the purpose of this document is to triggers automatic charging of duties and taxes in the ABMS or the automated bonds management system. So next section would be the section 10.2.6. The documents needed is the mission order, and the purpose of that mission order is to authorize Customs Guard to underguard the loose cargo. Next section is the section 10.2.7 and 10.2.8. So this section has a similar documents that needed. First document is the transfer note or boat note. It is a company goods being transferred to CBW. So the section 10.2.9, the documents needed is the WSAD or the Warehouse Single Administrative Document. So the purpose of WSAD is to file within 5 days of transfer, and it is needed for warehousing and monitoring goods entry. That's all for the section 10. Now let's proceed to section 11, the withdrawal of bonded goods. So section 11, subsection 11.1, it is the withdrawal of raw materials for production. So the documents needed in this section is the requisition slip or the Annex H. And the purpose of that is to accompany raw materials withdrawn for production, and it ensures approval and proper documentation. The section 11.2, the withdrawal of goods for transfer to contractor. So the documents needed is the requisition slip, and it is purpose when it's filed when raw materials are withdrawn for subcontracting kung imuha nang kuhaon ang materials na naasa are meant for subcontracting. The second is the withdrawal form. Annex Y. It is the Annex Y, the withdrawal form. So the purpose of that is to describe the materials to be transferred, including quantity and requisition number. Butang diya kung pila ka kilo, kung unsa nga goods ang imuhang iano. Next is the account officer logbook. So account officer logbook, it is used for recording the transaction. Next section is 11.3. So under 11.3, the withdrawal of bonded raw materials from CCBW to accredited member. So the documents needed in this section is the requisition slip for the 11.3.1. So the purpose of that is to file to request bonded raw materials transfer. And for the 11.3.2, the the documents needed is the withdrawal form. The purpose of that document is to identify material to be transferred. Next is 11.3.3. The document needed under this section is the transfer note or boat note. It covers the transfers of goods and is acknowledged by the CBW officer. So the section 11.3.4, the needed document is the requisition slip. The purpose of that requisition slip is to be furnished to the Common Bonded Warehouse or CBW for recording in the logbook. Next is the section 11.3.5. The document needed in this section is the production report. The purpose of that is to prepared by the CBW member for all goods transferred to its accredited member, and it should be countersigned and submitted weekly. Next document is the Annex J. The purpose of that is to prescribe format for the production section or production report. So the section 11.3.6, the document needed is to auto patem pano. In this section, the purpose is to require before the release of fabrics to the accredited member for manufacturing. And the section 11.4.1, the document needed is the Annex K. The purpose of that is to supporting form for the issuance of an authority to sell. It should be attached to BC Form 218. So the document BC Form 218, it is used to request authority to sell for semi-finished and finished product. Excuse me. Next section would be section 11.4.2. The documents is the supporting documents. It should be submitted by the operating division for authority to sell request. Next is the section 11.4.3. The document needed is the CI. Should be signed by the commissioners or at the it should be signed by the custom examiner for sale transfer of bonded goods. The details required on CI from WSAD is to WSAD number, the seller buyer's name and addresses, the product description, the raw material quantity, record code and category, and the value of invoice. Let's proceed to the section 11.4.4. So the document needed in this section is the goods declaration for constructive export. And it should be filed by seller covering bonded goods prior to actual transfer. So the supporting documents of this section is the approved authority to sell, signed CI, invoice, packing list, and system, the E2M system. That's the second document needed. So the purpose of E2M system is to where the goods declaration is lodged and processed. So the section 11.4.6, the documents of withdrawal form is the needed, and the purpose of that is to accomplish after inventory or the identification of goods. Next is the 11.4.7. The document needed is the requisition slip and to be filed by the operator with the assigned warehouseman. Next section is the 11.4.8. The document is the inventory and identification form, and the purpose of that is used by a warehouseman to verify the goods to be transferred. Next is section 11.4.9. The document needed is the transfer note or boat note. The purpose of that is to acknowledge receipt of goods by the assigned storekeeper or responsible officer. Let's proceed to the section 11.4.10. So the document needed in this section is the constructive warehousing goods declaration, wherein filed by the accredited member buyer within the 5 days of transfer. So the supporting documents that are needed is the approved authority to sell, constructive export declaration, CI, invoice, sales contract, packing list, staging bill, and transfer note or boat note. So for the section 11.5.1, the document needed in this section is the BC Form 218. So the purpose of that is it is used to apply for authority to sell from the MCBW to another MCBW or the free zone. Next section would be the section 11.5.3. The document needed is the CI, and the purpose of that is to sign by the examiner or for sale or transfer. The details required on CI is just like similar to the 11.4.3, which is the WSAD number, the seller buyer names and addresses, the description of products, the raw material quantity, product code and category, the value, and invoice. That's for the purpose of that is CI is a legal document issued by the seller to the buyer in a trade transaction. It serves as a proof of sale and it's used for customs clearance, tax calculation, and shipment processing. So next section of the section 11.5.4. The goods declaration for constructive export and should be filed by the CBW or seller. So the documents required is the approved authority to sell. It is a proof that the CBW seller is authorized to sell bonded goods and signed CI, Certificate of Inspection. It confirms that the goods were inspected and verified by customs or relevant authority. Next is invoice. Detailed sale or value and description of goods. Next is packing list. The PESA form 81005 only if the buyer is a free zone locator and required document for PISA related transaction ensuring property entry into the free zone. So the purpose of those mentioned document is to support the goods declaration for constructive export which is filled in the E2M system and processed by the export division before goods are transferred. So next section is the section 11.5.6, the requisition slip, and the document need is requisition slip, requisition slip used to formally request the withdrawal of banded goods from the warehouse. So the purpose of that is to file with the assigned warehouseman to initiate inventory and withdrawal process. Next is section 11.5.7. So the withdrawal form na kailangan prepared by the warehouseman. So the document needed withdrawal form completed after inventory and identification of goods. The purpose of that is the official record of what is being withdrawn or what is being transferred. Next section would be the section 11.5.8. So under this section, there are documents that transfer both notes. It serves as the transport document showing movement of goods from seller to buyer. So the purpose of that is to covers the transfer and is used to track and secure the goods during transit with a customs guard. Next section is the section 11.5.9, which is the constructive warehousing goods declaration filed by the CBW or buyer. So the documents required is the approved authority to sell as proof of approved sale, the copy of constructive export declaration filed by the CBW or seller, the CI, the invoice or sales contract, the packing list, staging bill of lading, and the transfer note or the boat note. So the purpose of that is it should be filed within 5 days after the transfer, and this declaration formalizes the receipt of goods by the CBW buyer. So under the section 11.6.1, accreditation of client's exporter. So a confirms buyer is authorized to receive duty-free goods for export. So 11.6.2 required application for withdrawal formal request to withdraw goods for sale. So the supporting documents is the invoice, packing list, and etc. And it provides transaction and product details for customs evaluate. So under the section 11.6.3 for sale to accredited client exporter document, so the document needed is the CI. It should must contain the WSAD number, the CBW seller, identify source, the name, address of client or exporter, and it should be identified recipient or the quantity and description of finished goods, the quantity and description of materials used, the product code or the product code from the formula of manufacture, and the value in USD. So the purpose of those said document is the CI is completed by the customs examiner to document verification before the bonded goods are released for sale to a client exporter. So next section would be the 11.7.1. So the documents needed in this section is the sale contract, WSAD, CI, invoice, packing list, authority to sell, PESA Form 8105, GD for constructive export, requisition slip, withdrawal form, transfer note, CEWA, or construction GD. So to the purpose of that, those or these documents is to process and record stocks-free transfer of bonded goods from ICBW to MCBW, a free zone for export production. Next section is the 11.7.2. So the documents needed in this section is the requisition slip, invoice, CI, transfer note, export declaration. So the purpose of that is to manage airline meal preparation and export declaration of goods used on board. Next is the 11.7.3. The requisition slip, CI, transfer note, export declaration. The needed documents is to release aircraft parts consumable for urgent use and record export. So the 11.7.4 just nasa sila similarity sa 11.7.3. So, it applies the same document and rule as the 11.7.1 to multinational ICBWs. So, 11.7.5, the documents needed are the letter request, warehouse man certification, staging BL or the bill of lading, GD for consumption. So, proof of payment. These goods or documents is to allow local sales of bonded goods with proper payment of duties and taxes. Let's proceed to the section 12, which is the direct exportation of bonded goods. So let's proceed to the section 12.1. The document needed in the section is the written notice. The purpose of that is to notify customs of export inspection schedule. Next is the 12.2. The needed documents is the certificate of inspection to certify that the goods were examined for export. And third is the 12.3.1. Same district. The needed document is the EDSAD, CI invoice, packing list, export clearance, transfer note for the LCL and the CIL. The purpose of that is to declare and track bonded goods for export within the same jurisdiction. Next is the 12.3.2, the different district. So the the documents needed is the TSAD, the CI invoice, packing list, transfer note for LCL, export clearance, ED, and CIL to process export when bonded goods move for different ports. That's all for the section 12. Let's proceed to the section 18, the suspension and closure of CBW. So under the section 18.1, the grounds for closure or the violations. So there are violations that can result in the closure of a customs bonded warehouses. So under the subsection 18.1.1, the violation that it is a voluntary closure or if customs find valid reason as per the CMTA section 807. So the penalty of that for that subsection is a closure of customs bonded warehouse. And to ito gani basta ang compliance nga required kay mag-file ka og formal request or comply with the customs findings para ma-appeal nimo ang violation. Next subsection is the 18.1.2, the submitted false information in renewal application. So the penalty of that is the closure of the CBW, and the compliance required is to submit accurate and truthful documents. Next is 18.1.3, did not file for renewal of CBW license. So the penalty is the closure of CBW, and to appeal, it should be timely filing of renewal application. Under the 18.1.4, the inactive CBW for more than 1 year. Wala ka nag-import or export for more than 1 year. So, ang possible penalty for that is the closure of the CBW, and to appeal or to prevent, you should maintain regularly activity or explain inactivity. Next is the 18.1.5. The CBW used for illegal activities with knowledge of operator and officer. So it could be led to closure of CBW and um, to prevent that, do not allow warehouse use for unlawful acts. Next is the 18.1.6, unauthorized relocation or use of an approved extension warehouse. So the possible penalty is the closure of CBW and you should comply, get customs approval before relocation or extension. Next is 18.1.7, unauthorized layout changes inside the CBW. So, ang penalty is closure of CBW and you should submit proposed layout changes for approval. So, next is 18.1.8, unauthorized structural changes if maka-second offense na ka. So, ang penalty na kay closure of CBW and you should seek prior customs approval for construction or renovation. Next is 18.1.9. The withdrawal of goods without proper documents, walay requisition slip or withdrawal form. The penalty of that is the CBW closure or closure of CBW and i-confiscate or i-seize ang imong mga goods. So, it use only approved withdrawal form for all transaction. Dapat gamiton lang nimo ang mga documents nga na-approve na for withdrawal forms. Next is Section 18.1.10. Illegal withdrawal of bonded goods or non-payment of duties and taxes. So, possible penalty is the closure of CBW and forfeiture of goods or surcharge. So, to comply, the remedies ana mag-follow mag proper withdrawal and payment procedures para dili mag-lead to closure and forfeiture. Next is 18.1.11. The violation of any customs rules and regulation. So the penalty of that is the closure of CBW and to comply with all customs laws and procedure. That's for the 18.1. The section Next is the section 18.2, the closure order. So ang action nga buhaton na kay mag-issue og closure order. And ang penalty or ang effect is official start of CBW closure process. And compliance required na kay CBW operator must acknowledge and prepare for compliance. That's for the section 18.2, the closure order. Next is the section 18.3, the physical closure and guarding. So the action that will be nga ibang button is the CBW is sealed and placed under 24/7 guard after closure order or is issued. So ang penalty na kay ang operator must bear the cost of guarding until obligations are cleared. And the last one is the CBW remain closed until all accountabilities are settled. Kanang mga duties, taxes, documents na kailangan nimo i-comply or ipasa. So the penalty or the effect of that is to settle outstanding duties, taxes, violation, and submit required documents. So for the summarization of Section 18, the violation includes false information, inactivity, unauthorized changes, illegal withdrawals, and customs violation. And for the penalties, this is closure of warehouse, forfeiture, confiscation of goods, surcharges, and 24/7 guarding at operator's expense. And the compliance for that is to require truthful filing, proper documentation, activity within legal storage period, and customs approval for changes or transfer. So, for that, that would be all for the CMO 3-2022 under the Section 2, Section 10, 11, 12, and Section 18. Thank you for watching, guys. That would be all. Thank you.